Hi, my name is Pearl. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm talking about how to set boundaries in your relationship. Now, you know some key types of boundaries you may want to set in your relationship, and you may be asking yourself, how do I go about setting these boundaries in my relationship? The first thing, which is really important for you to know your boundaries. Ask yourself, what are the boundaries I would like to be in this relationship. Try to identify the different kind of boundaries. Like we said that every relationship has or should have boundaries. Like it doesn't matter if it's just an intimate relationship. Everybody rather has boundaries. Their boundaries may be loose, they may be rigid or whatsoever, but everybody has boundaries. Now some people may choose not to not to involve or include boundaries in their relationship, but whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, we have boundaries. So it's very important for you to know and identify the boundaries that you would like to include in your relationship. It's also important for you to 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 look for the areas where you feel that there may be red lines your partner may cross, so that you make sure that they stick to those areas and they don't cross the line when it comes to your boundaries. So it's very important that you know your boundaries. When you know your boundaries, you can better communicate them. And that leads us to the next thing, which is communication. Communication is very, very important, like I was saying, every relationship. And if you don't know your boundaries, you'll not be able to communicate your boundaries. So know the boundaries. Like some people have boundaries that are really important to them, and they have other boundaries that are not all that important. So if you know, like, these are the different kinds of boundaries that I have, you better know how to communicate them with your partner. The next thing you should do is be firm with your boundaries. Be firm with your boundaries and make it very clear. When you're firm with your boundaries, when you know what your boundaries are, it's easy for somebody to understand your boundaries. And you also make it clear the consequences of violating your boundaries. When you have a lot of boundaries, like I said one time, that it's not good to have like a lot of boundaries at the beginning, just like many boundaries. It's very important to start small, so that when you start small you can build up. You know what to add, you know what to subtract, you know if you're sticking to what you said, or if actually what you put in place is working. So it's very, very important. And also to set aside the consequences if this boundary is broken. It's very important that a significant other knows that there are consequences for violating my boundaries. Now, another thing that we should do is choose when to discuss your boundaries. This is very important because it sets the outcome of your relationship. For instance, you want to discuss, there's some things that you want to talk about early on in the relationship. There are some boundaries that I want to talk about early on in the relationship, so that it avoids you having maybe conflict, or maybe having some kind of problems that would have been avoided if you had spoken about it early on in the relationship. So, and there are other boundaries that you must not necessarily say at the beginning. You may talk about them when they come up. If, for instance, you don't like to be shouted at and your partner shouts at you, I think that's the time to bring up that conversation. Like, I don't like to be shouted at, or talked down to, or ignored, whatever it is. And it's very important that you bring it up when you both are calm and are relaxed, and you can actually listen to what the person is saying and make intelligent decisions. So, like we said, bring up the issue of boundaries when you guys are both relaxed, when you guys are free from distractions, so that you can actually talk about it and find a better ground so your relationship can thrive. Another thing you need to do, that I said before, is communication. You need to communicate, communicate, communicate. Communication is very important in every relationship. And now you need to communicate with respect. Healthy boundaries include respect. That is something that most people don't know. You know, they say you cannot give what you don't have. And if you want to receive respect, you should be able to give out respect. So you should be able to communicate your boundaries with respect. You should be able to listen to the other person with compassion, with empathy, with understanding. Listen to your partner. What your partner is saying is important. It doesn't matter if it doesn't, sometimes it may not make sense to you at the beginning, but if it's important to that person, then you should be able to listen with respect. Don't make side comments or stupid remarks about how the person is just being unreasonable or something. If at the end of the day you cannot come to a compromise and it's something that is really important to that person, then it just shows that you guys are not supposed to be in that relationship. Because why would you want to be in a relationship with somebody when there is a major thing about that person that you guys don't see eye to eye on? It's going to cause a rift, because it's going to be something that would always be a problem for you guys in your relationship. Another thing you need to do is you need to know when to be firm and forceful. No, you should know when to be firm about your boundaries, because there are times when you may say something and the other person doesn't take it serious. So you should also know when to be firm. Like, I'm like, this thing is really important to me. I need you to listen because this thing is important to me. And forceful. Now, know when and how to be forceful in your relationship as far as boundaries are concerned. So what if one of your strict boundary is crossed? So what if your partner continues to ignore one of your boundaries that may not be all that important to you, but he repeatedly keeps ignoring it and crossing the line? What do you do when that happens? Now this is where you really need to be firm and to show to your partner that there are boundaries that you have put in place, and these boundaries were communicated. And if he keeps repeatedly crossing the line or ignoring your boundaries, then there is bound to be repercussions. So like I said before, that you said, when you're setting your boundaries, let your partner understand that crossing this boundary has repercussions. For instance, I also said that it's very important to talk about boundaries, like your very important boundaries, early in the relationship, so that you get to find out what the consequence may be for violating one of your boundaries. And when I say this, I mean you, like I said, you communicate with compassion and you communicate these things with love. So if for instance you don't appreciate being cheated on in a relationship, if your relationship is exclusive and you don't appreciate being cheated on, I think that when you tell your partner, I don't appreciate being cheated on in a relationship, the consequence to this action is separation. Now if he goes ahead and cheats on you in that relationship, of course he already knows that the consequence of that action is separation. So that when that happens, you are firm and you make your decision and you work on it, you stand on it. Now if it's something that you feel like maybe it's not that important to you, but if you can have it as a boundary, it means that to an extent it's important. But if you feel like it's not as important as cheating, then you need to let your partner know that this is a consequence and you will not tolerate it. Because if you don't do that, he's going to keep on repeating it, and there will be no need. You just be like, it was useless having that boundary in the first place. It shows that he's not respectful. It shows that he doesn't appreciate the fact that, you want to have this. Maybe if it's space that you're asking for, you should be able to respect your space. Another thing you need to know is, let your partner know when you need time alone, especially in this area of COVID. There are some countries which are on lockdown, and people have to be, like maybe at close proximity with each other. Sometimes in relationships, it becomes, for people who are not married, it becomes cumbersome. So let your partner know when you need alone time. Let your partner know when you need space. It may just be that you want to be in the living room alone. Maybe early in the morning you want to be alone. Let your partner know that you crave alone time, and also respect their decisions to crave alone times. Now, all these things about boundary will not make any sense if you cannot respect other people's boundaries. that's the reason why I said that you should learn to communicate your boundaries, and also know that other people have boundaries that they expect you to respect them. So if you cannot respect another person's boundary, then there is no way you expect that person to respect your boundaries. So boundaries has to, it's just like a two-way traffic. You give and you take. And we should also know that sometimes our loved ones or our partners may not actually, sometimes you have to give lapses. There are certain things that you feel that are not really important, but though you see as a boundary, it's not all that really important. You should at least give lapses, because sometimes people may make mistakes. People make mistakes, and the guideline for you is to see if they are actually committed to change, if they're actually sorry, they actually admit that they made a mistake, and they are willing to change. Because you meet somebody for the first time, and that person may not be, that person obviously not who you want them to be, or that person may obviously have their own ideas about life and relationships. So it's an issue of compromise, talking about it, communication, seeing where you can compromise, seeing where little changes can be made to accommodate your partner and also to accommodate yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel so you get notified whenever I upload other videos. Let's talk in the comment section and let me know other things, other ways to set healthy boundaries. And I'll see you in my next video. Have an amazing week. Bye bye.